Welcome to the Range Podcast. I'm Ricky Brule, and with me is Jake Hollywood Iverson. Join us at the Archery Range, where we'll tell stories from the hunt, discuss technical bow shooting tactics and gear, and pick the brains of some of the most successful people to ever shoot a bow. Whether you're about to shoot that X for the win or send an arrow at a trophy buck, this podcast is for you. The Range Podcast is brought to you by Vapor Trail Archery, makers of the best bowstrings money can buy, originators of limb-driven arrow rest technology, and innovators of Stokerized stabilizer systems. Welcome to the Range, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Brule, and I'm sitting here with the Mule Deer Boys, Mr. Damon, Wolfe, and Paul Vincent. Thanks for listening, everybody. You can find the video version of this episode on the Vapor Trail YouTube channel, so make sure you head over there. Give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. And if you're listening, give us a rating and a review. Only 5 stars will do. And we're going to do a quick recap video of the film that just launched last week. So what was that? Tuesday last week. So it's been 7 days, something like that. And just wanted to talk a little bit about the success of the film and kind of talk about some behind the scenes stuff and all that kind of stuff. So how's it going? How you guys doing? Damon, you can go first.
We're going, man.
We're going.
Doing good. Just living life and working, fishing, shed hunting, and dreaming of turkeys.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm speaking of the film. I'm excited that it's done and we're moving forward, and we can talk more about that in this, but yeah, just doing good.
You getting any sleep?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently I've been getting good sleep.
Good.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's the goal.
When
I can.
Yeah. How about you, Paul?
As he's drinking Starburst from a cup.
C4.
Is that a
sugar
play
in
on
it, though.
TNT?
You might start to hear my heartbeat on the intercom here soon. It's what?
Is C4 a play on TNT? Maybe. Dynamite.
No, C4 is pre-workout in a can.
Oh.
But like C4 is also a plastic explosive. So I think
And
that's what he's
it's gonna explode.
Explosive
The
workout.
heart, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Starts to make me itch too. So if I'm like
Yeah.
itching during this, just don't be
Oh, man.
worried.
Yeah, what is that? Is it the L-theanine or whatever in there or something that makes you itchy?
Alkaline or I don't know. 0 sugar. We're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. Paul.
We digress. Life's good here. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we had a little hot tent set up out on the ice at our house, and it kind of brought back memories. Stuck in the little stove.
Yeah, man.
They get pretty warm. They're
Yeah.
cozy. Like it. No, life is good. Getting through winter. It seems like maybe we're in summer now. All
Yeah.
the snow's gone. Ice is starting to melt. So,
Right.
yeah.
It's that we kind of get that moment where you feel like it's going to be summer, and then I
Yeah.
hate to say it, but, we're going to get a storm in April and then probably another one in May.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's all right. Just push the turkeys back a little bit further, their movement patterns and everything. Go ahead.
No, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. To me, turkey season is tomorrow. If I don't think that way, I'm going to be sad.
Yeah.
But the good thing about bow hunting turkeys is you get the entire season. So even if weather does push it back, we'll still kill them with the bow.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Get some get the blinds set up, get them out into position, and see if we can take one down on the opener or a few days after.
Yeah, it's going to be, if the weather stays like this and bows are tuned and blinds are set and caffeine is drank, it is going to be an absolute banger season. If the weather stays like this, early season is going to be lights out. But every year what happens, or the last couple of years, is it's like this, and then we get a snowstorm, and then first and even second season are kind of a bust.
Yeah.
So if it stays like this, we'll kill.
Yeah, it's one of the most unpredictable seasons I've ever had to deal with. So we'll, just go.
And hopefully
you just
you're
go with
involved.
the flow. Yeah.
Hopefully Paul's
First
involved.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just
And-
go with the flow and you just pivot.
Yeah.
That's the key.
If I'm hunting with Ricky, though, you think we can get a storm?
Probably. Probably.
Most likely.
Okay.
Most likely. That friend. Speaking of that friend of mine, one of the two that give me a hard time about, like I talked about in the film, he did comment and he said the title of the film is spot on. So he was like, "That's good."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Worked out pretty good.
Have you talked to Nate since the film went live?
Just a little bit, but mostly it's just him saying, "I want this and I want that and I need this and I need that." You know, because he's big shot now, so he's like, "You owe me stuff."
Oh, nice.
No, I'm just kidding. But I have talked to him, but not much about the film or anything like that. Just how's things going. And again, he's getting pumped up for the next season. He's got a new bow coming, so he wants to get some new stabilizers and the new rest and all that kind of stuff. And speaking of that, he's, I guess, the fourth member of the Mule Boys, and he's unfortunately not able to have him on. But yeah, so
We saw him at ATA.
yes,
I saw him at ATA.
yes, we
Yeah.
did. So that's a good
So
point.
we saw him since then.
All right,
And
good.
we left you out.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we should have you come to ATA one time. That'd be awesome.
Let's go.
It's fun, dude.
Sounds fun.
It's fun. Probably too much fun.
Good to see all the new goodies.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had a drop of alcohol since we got back. So it's been almost 60 some days.
I haven't slept in my clothes since then too. So yeah.
Okay, that leaves a lot of questions. We'll just
Well,
leave it
no.
at that.
Yeah. But to give everybody a description on that, I slept on a blow up mattress type thing in my clothes. It's nothing to be worried about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just gonna stop talking before I get myself in trouble.
You're fine, dude. You're good. So basically, I think I'd like to just kind of give a little bit of background for you guys. You know, I've already had you on a couple of times, but for those of you who haven't listened to those episodes, I highly recommend going back. Listen to the Mule Boys episodes that we did back in, what was it? early October, early November. So go back and check those out. But for those of you who haven't seen those, Damon has a creative agency called All for One. He is kind of a one-man show. Well, you've got another guy helping you out, and then
For the most part,
yeah.
One man. But when I need help,
right.
I got a buddy, Alex, that helps me out. And He's great.
Mm-hmm. And then Paul is a amazing photographer and videographer as well. And you have your own business in photography. It's just Paul Vincent Photography, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just Paul Vincent Photography, but
It's all good.
so yeah, and I just am still throttled at the fact that we were able to come together and make this thing work out, and it's gotten a ton of really good feedback. I think I think I checked this morning, the film had over 6,000 views, which is pretty good.
It's averaging about 1,000 a day.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then I'm going to be putting out some more marketing content this week as well on the Vapor Trail side to try to help get some more people over there. So if you haven't gone there and checked it out yet, make sure to go to Prime Archery's YouTube channel. Check out the film Form the Storm. There's also a review on the bow on their channel as well. And then what else was I going to say?
Their YouTube channel, if you don't link it, I'm sure you'll link it in this to their YouTube channel. But one thing, when I look up just Prime Archery on YouTube, just like other people's content shows up, their YouTube channel is called G5 Prime Archery to get to like the actual channel where the film is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure right now with like how the algorithm and stuff is working, if you look it up, the film will show up. So
yeah. Yeah, and you can search Form the Storm too. That should pop it up as well. And so, but yeah, a lot of good feedback. There was one guy that left a comment about how it's a big, huge marketing scam and blah blah blah.
He wasn't in the tent.
Prime's bow from back in, one of their bows from back in the day was actually lighter than it's like, okay, bud.
Yeah, I talked to Brian about that, and he would. Well, the first thing, one of the big learning things is for me is just like look at them. It's hard not to look at the comments, but at the same time, like don't look at them
Yeah.
because, you know, it's cool to see like good feedback, but then bad feedback. Like, I wouldn't even say there's such thing as like bad feedback unless it's complete nagging like that. But it's just people dealing with their own issues, and you just got to pray for them. And if you see them, give them a hug and say, it's going to be okay, buddy.
Yeah. I laugh about it, and I kind of like to talk about it in regards to, you know, in one aspect, they're helping to increase the engagement to a degree. And I think, like, I didn't want to comment on it because I don't want to, like, create for lack of a better word, a storm in the comment section. But if I was whoever's moderating at Prime, I would address it, you know, in a articulate way, you know, still to kind of help with some of that engagement, you know, to help kind of increase and boost the algorithm a little bit. So, but at the same time, some people just aren't even worth your time, right? So you just move on. A majority of the comments are all good. There's just one guy that's got to get in there, you know. So
That's how life is. I feel like in my short 20 years of living, that's just kind of what I've seen is like some things are worth your time and some aren't. And I looked at it and just laughed. Yeah. And just moved on. But
yeah, exactly. So how is the film, like, what are your thoughts as far as now that it's launched? Has it fulfilled expectations? What kind of feedback are we getting from the brands that we created assets for? It seems like everybody is really excited about the content that we created. I know Brad Brooks at Argali, you know, I communicate with him directly, and he's pretty excited about the content that was created and wants more, you know, so we'll kind of see where that goes. But what are your guys' thoughts? How are you feeling about it?
I feel a bunch of different things. The first one would be I'm just super grateful that like these companies, like especially like these bigger companies, took the time to even, you know, hear the concept and invest in the concept, but also stick around and like communicate through that time, right? Like I think, yes, it's a 20-minute film, but I explained it in a post I made the other day is like it took just under a year to create and or just to like come up with, right? So like the first 4 to 5 months were just concept and planning and who do we want involved and where are we going and location and this and that and like all like the pre-production stuff. And then you have your production time where it's, you know, days in the field, sunrise to sunset, dumping footage, editing after. Like me and Paul would go and dump and edit and talk about the plan for the next day and what we have to capture and this and that and that. And that's all. Honestly, I would almost, how I view it is that was probably the easiest part was hunting, filming, and capturing. The hardest part was the pre-production and then the post-production, and like I shouldn't even say hardest part, just like the most time-consuming part is like how are we going to do this, how are we going to edit it, how are we going to deliver, what music, this and that, and it all kind of compiles, right? And then it turns into a big ball of content. And then, you know, I had probably 12 or 13 full shoot days, almost 2 terabytes of footage that now I'm looking at in a timeline, and it's like, okay, we have to create a story, edit a story that's already been told, just showing that in a 20-minute segment. And that was like a very overwhelming, but also very, like it felt good to start. And like, I'm sure you feel this too, is like the hardest part is just to start. Once you're in it, then it's like, okay, I got this. It's just like looking at that. Like for me, it took me probably a day or two of just looking at the footage and sifting through it and like, okay, how are we going to place it in a timeline and make it seem right? And then that was it, right? And then like the film gets done. And I think I had 11 or 12 days editing. You know, all different types. Like some days I'd edit for 3 or 4 hours and some days I'd edit for 10. And it just kind of all was different. But then once that's done, it's like, okay, now we have to do brand deliverable stuff. And that's like a whole different beast in itself, and communicating that and delivering to people and getting feedback and revising. And so that to me was more intimidating than the filming part, because I filmed a lot before, but I've never worked with, 5 or 6 brands on one project where you have all these different expectations and things to deliver. So that was a big stepping stone for not only me, but my company is like, okay, we did it. Now, how can we do it again, but in a better, not a better way, but in a more efficient, time-saving way, and then also elevate the next one to be even better. So like that's what I'm not just excited that it's done and that it's getting good feedback, but I'm also excited to look at how it went and how can we do it better for the next one, because I want to do these every year.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. But yeah, it felt good to be like done.
Yeah.
But it's also not done, you know?
Yeah.
It's like done, but it's not, because there's always more. And projects like this, and I'm sure you know with like big photo shoots, is you're pulling images and video from these galleries for like years, right? Like a big project like this doesn't just get posted and then it's like done. It's like a year from now, 2 years from now, we might be pulling footage to make a reel, or we might be using a couple clips to create an ad for a company, right? And like recently I did an ad for Dialed where I pulled a couple clips from the project to like enhance that ad, and then you kind of pull in. Same thing with images, is like big projects like that where you have hundreds of photos, you're pulling images from those galleries for years to like promote product and experience. So it's not done.
Yeah, there's a ton of content to repurpose.
It's technically done, but it's not done.
Yeah.
You know, it'll always, and that's the beauty of it.
I look forward to getting more candid videos from you, like Paul and I got the other day. Like, I just, some of the lot of different. My head's going a lot of different ways, but I was thinking it might be kind of cool to do. You know how I don't see this done a lot anymore, but you know how like you used to be able to watch a movie and you could watch the commentary version of the movie. Don't you think it would be fun to just like record us watching it, and then we just talk about the film as it's rolling? We're talking about some of the behind the scenes things and the things that are going on. Just because I don't know if people would be interested in that, but I think about all the things that happen. They're watching 20 minutes of film, but this is 20 minutes of a video, but this is 6 days worth of stuff that we're doing. And so many things happening. And like one thing that made me think about it was Hollywood asked me about the scene where I say taking cameras where they don't belong. And I was like, so then like it turned into a whole story. I was like, well, here's the deal. This is what was happening in that people don't get to see, like in that moment and what's going on. And so I just thought that would be kind of cool to do something like that. But yeah, the video of Paul saying that it's like negative 100 degrees and we could totally survive that in the Archery tent, no problems. But, we need to put everything in our favor to make sure we can get Frank. And I just love that little clip. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough footage to create a whole film, another whole film.
Yeah.
Like just like more of like an Impractical Jokers type of segment where it's just like, footage of us producing it and enjoying the difficulties in it. And
yeah 6 days is a long time to be out there, but I will say in that moment when you're saying taking cameras where they don't belong, I was like, you guys, we just got on Frank like right out the gate. These guys are gonna go put this stock on. Like, is this gonna kind of be like, are we gonna get lucky right off the bat?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say it, but in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, get it done, guys, get it done.
Yeah, I think the way that you cut it, and for me, and I don't know if it's because it's us in the film, but like when it cuts over to that black and white and that track kicks in, like I get a lump in my throat, because I'm just like, and so to me, if it can create that emotion, that's the mission accomplished. I mean, right there.
Yeah. I just rewatched it a day or two ago, and you did an awesome job cutting it all.
Thank you.
So nice job. That's a lot of footage to put together, and like we know the story, but it's hard to like convey that to other people that weren't there. Just like Hollywood, like what about this scene? It can be really hard to communicate that, but at the end, your feelings are portrayed in the video, and I relived that moment. I was there, but I relived that moment of that experience and what had happened, and in the hunt, at the end of the shoot, and kind of, like you said, it flips to black and white, and it's a collection of memories that we have from that time together, and that'll never happen again, and anything that we do in the future will be different. Like, you just can't control it, whether it's the weather or the animals or gear or whatever it may be. That's a unique experience that we all get to share and create new ones going forward too. But, that's an awesome little timepiece that we have.
Yeah, I love it, especially the fact that, like we talked about with the history that I have out there, and, I've got photos that I posted on, Facebook, and I had albums that I called The Storm Has Arrived, because so many hunts that I would go on out west, there would be a storm of some sort, and just the way that to be able to tell the story and show it after all these years hunting out there, and to be able to see it and just pull it up and watch it. And like, even for my daughter, just absolutely loves, she just keeps wanting to watch it, and she's like, hey, can we watch your movie, Dad? It's like really cool. That I just to create that emotion, and it makes me want to just take me back. You know what I mean? Like, gosh, again, love family time and love being around my family and everything like that. Just those moments where we get to hang out and in the wild and, listen to Nate tell some really lewd jokes about pooping and farting, and
he's a bachelor, man.
But yeah, it was great. It was a blast. Paul, I don't know if you really got a chance to answer the question, I guess, that I posed to both of you guys about, like, how are you feeling about it, and what is it? Because I know part of the goal, right, was for you to kind of get your toes wet in more in that space. And so how has that developed new relationships for you in your business, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. It's always great to meet people like Damon and yourself. I mean, I knew you, and I knew Damon by shoot time, but it's always good to meet new people, especially in a new space that, I'm a newer hunter and a newer, at capturing the hunting scene. So a lot of it for me was kind of sitting back. We had ideas and plans, but this is real life. Like, it's not completely documentary where you're just like, no, I'm just going to be a fly on the wall. Like, we did try to be like, oh, the sun is setting. It's beautiful now. And, we're not on a stock, so let's shoot some things that are beautiful, pretty, eye candy for the brands. But it was a real shoot. And so for me, a lot of it, we were talking about you fly fishing earlier and trying to learn that, so that when you do document those things, that you kind of have an understanding of what's happening. That was a lot for me too. I hadn't been on a Western hunt. I hadn't shot like a hunting shoot. I've shot like little things here and there, for hunting specifically. So a lot of it was like, I don't want to mess something up. Actually, that was the biggest worry going into it. It was like, they're like, okay, so if we stalk, you should probably stop at like this length. I'm like, I'm not, like, you guys just go. I want you guys to have the experience. I don't want to mess something up. So I got kind of the commentary with Nate when we would watch you guys. We're sitting on the scope, and I would put my like zoom lens on and zoom in digitally on my viewfinder, so I was watching too. And so I would get like this play-by-play of you guys going on these stalks, and then the commentary of when we're searching and how you're gridding things out and trying to find animals. And I mean, Nate has an understanding of that area specifically, and where to kind of look primarily for animals, and then where to kind of go on your second ring and third ring. So yeah, for me it was quite a bit of just like sitting back and learning a little bit, which I think is fun. Later in life, I think we tend to shy away from things that, make us feel uncomfortable or like we don't know what we're doing. I've been shooting professionally for 13, 14 years, and I think it's always fun to sort of reinvent yourself or put yourself in a situation that you haven't been before. I think that's when you can learn new things. So watching how Damon's shooting, like, you did an awesome job with all that. Watching how you're just processing all these emotions of, do we stalk, do we not, wind direction, way too much wind, just like super cold.
Analysis paralysis. There's a lot
Totally.
of that going on.
Yeah. I had my camera actually freeze up. I had to pop the battery out and put it back in, which doesn't really happen to me. I've shot like ice harvest blocks, like those huge blocks for ice castles and stuff, and it's minus 20, and I haven't had cameras freeze up, and they froze up on us out there, and our bodies just being cold all day. And so you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with animals, you're dealing with people, trying to figure everything out. And I love projects. I love big projects because production in theory is easy when you're sitting at your computer concepting all these things of like, oh, we're gonna make this and then this storyline and then this would be really cool. And then production is hard. You're out there and you're shooting, trying to find animals, trying to deal with the weather, trying to deal with, is it the rut, is it the post rut, what are they doing right now? Those things are all fun and interesting to me. And then on the back end of like, I think Damon's really big on this, is like trying to create as much value for the people who are a part of it and supported it, while also just telling like a real story. Like you said, we're not fabricating anything, we're not making anything up, we're really there to document what's happening. And I think that the video does a good job of capturing that, not being anything more than what it was, but being exactly as it was. And then I love like putting a bow on it, wrapping it up, doing the delivery of like, here's a launch date. And I think that's the fun part about project-based like work, is you're like, okay, here's the project, I'm delivering it to you. And like you said, there's always assets that live in your library and that can be supplemented to other things, but it's like you're sort of forced to finish a project. It doesn't just drag on forever. So it's like at some point you need to put it out there and be done with it to the greater extent. And that's like what you're putting out. And it's like nerve-wracking to put out those final assets. But that's like the culmination of all your hard work and thoughts and dreams and putting things together and changing things, and maybe like having to let some things go, but finding new storylines or new cool visuals or interesting angles to tell on the story. And I think so I knew Jason with Kairos, and you guys had all the hunting stuff, as far as relationships. And I know Jason specifically is like, what do we do next, sort of thing. He's just loves the story that we were able to tell. It wasn't at all like product placement, like, infomercial, read this, look at this stuff. It was integrated. It's like, oh, we were eating, we grilled out. Like, we would do that stuff anyways. We were hunting and we had all this gear. It's gear that we would be using anyways. So it just felt like a lot of natural partnerships. And from the brands that I talked to, it was really wonderful, great experience, and excited about like other different more opportunities to do, which is always, a great way. And I think that speaks to the people involved in it. I think everybody really is kind of a giver in that way. Like, we want to give people more than what they asked for and what they kind of agreed to. And that was my whole experience with the shoot. Everybody was like more than happy to accommodate things or figure out things or problem solve things. It was not well, you just figure that out. You're cold. Good. Okay. You figure it out. Like, I got my stuff to deal with. It was not like that. So I felt very much like we were a group trying to accomplish, a couple things, and we did and didn't do some of those, and then that changed and we didn't do some of those, So I loved it. It was great. Thanks for letting me be a part of this cool journey. And hopefully it's just one of many. Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about it a little bit in the previous episode that we did together, but to give everybody some background, essentially Paul had kind of reached out to me. Again, you were looking to kind of expand out into some areas that you wanted to get some more experience in. And then, at the time it was middle of turkey season, so it was kind of like, well, I'm not sure, we can try to work something out. But I think I remember I was just like, yeah, I'm going out hunting tomorrow if you want to come out. You're like, well, that's a little too soon. But so we just kind of shelved it, and we didn't have to for very long. I mean, it wasn't even a month, I think, till I found out I got my North Dakota tag. And before that even had happened, we kind of talked a little bit about, I was like, I really feel like we should get Damon involved,
you know, I mean, I think we could really do some really amazing things. Then the two of you can focus on your craft, and I think that worked out really well. And even then, you know, you were getting some video and you were getting some photos too, you know, so it just, you know, I alluded to the fact that I have two of the best, you know, in the room, and, you know, you guys are like, oh, shucks. But I mean, honest to God, you know, and when you talk about the brands and the feedback that they've given, I mean, it's been nothing but amazing. And I go through those photos that you took, and it's just like, I love reliving the moments. And again, I'm excited and hopeful that we can do some more of this. And I think that the brands that were on board would be more than happy to jump on again. And, you know, of course, the success of the film will, you know, have some weight on that. But at the same time, again, we're creating assets for the companies that they can use, like you said, and repurpose for, who knows, for years, you know, to come. So, yeah, it was great. It was really fun to make, you know, create these assets for people or for these companies that they can use, but make a film and tell a story instead of it, like you said, just being kind of in your face, buy our product, do this, do that, you know. And so I love the feedback that we got from people saying, you know, just that they love the film, the way that it was cut, the way the story was told. So,
and I want to touch base on assets quick. I think in the creator economy, it's like create, make stuff. And I think sometimes you lose track of like the art of things. You know, it's an art to put a story together, you know, like AI can do it, but AI wasn't there, you know, like Damon was there and he knows like what we're trying to communicate and the stories we're trying to get across. And photo wise, like I had some things I was trying to do, even just like different techniques or different filters or whatever that you're working on. So like we are, and even you in hunting, you know, like it is an art. It's not just a science. And so I think that I don't want to like lose that art piece. Like art's like kind of a vulnerable thing. You put that out there and then people comment on it. And it's like, do they like it? Do they not? Is it kind of like more of what we got that they do or don't like? Or is it what I did that they do or don't like? I was in corporate America before this, and it was, you know, you could kind of hide there behind a team. And here it's like you're creating art. You're putting things out there. You're making conscious decisions on how we're going to photograph and videograph and tell a story. And I think that you shouldn't like overlook those things. I think it's like a wonderful, beautiful piece that we put out, and I'm super proud of it and the work that Damon did and the work that you did and all of our partners kind of pitched in on. So just want to sort of touch on that. You can get lost in just making new stuff all the time, but I think we put together a cool like piece of art, and I'm proud of that.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty surreal feeling when it launched, like sitting down on my couch and like clicking it and watching it, you know, and my girlfriend kind of was there and she was watching it and she's like, oh, what happened there? And, you know, just like making comments on it. And it's like, wow, like I'm watching this on a screen, which also led me to the fact that my colors on my TV screen are completely off, because I was like, that looks really blown out. That looks super saturated. That looks, you know, and I'm like, oh, and then on my computer it was good. So whole different conversation. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, oh, I don't like the way that looks. And then I see a cut and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done that. And I'm sure you get this too, is like, yes, that film is done. The topic you were talking about is like just getting it out there and like letting the world see it. But like if it was like my own personal project and I was the one supporting it, like that film might not see the world ever, just because I have this like craving to like just kind of keep working on it and making it perfect, quote unquote perfect.
Yeah.
And I called you about that too, is like it's a challenge, because in my idea, like I have that idea in my head and I like want it perfect, and then you think you have it and then you take a break, then you go back to it a day later and you're like, oh, I want to do this. And like it's hard to get it to a point where you're just like, okay, like this is it. Because I feel like I never would get that if I didn't have a brand saying I need it by February, you know, 25th. If I didn't have that, it'd be like, oh, well, I'll work on it some more and make it better. So I think that's good, and touches base on what you were talking about, is it takes an outsider to go, give me that, to really let me give it to them, because I'd still probably be editing it for years to come. Who knows, you know?
Yeah, I've been down that road too with design stuff, you know, where you just like you said, you just keep tweaking, you keep tweaking, and now I'm much better at saving multiple copies and taking snapshots of everything in Photoshop as I'm working or Illustrator, because it gets to a point where now everything gets so convoluted. You're like, man, I want to go back to the way it was, because but again, you step away from it, you come back, and then it's like seeing all these things, and and then when you're staring at it on a computer screen, that's always going to be the challenge, as screens look different, and from one to another.
Yeah, and it's not that it looked bad, but like if I was on my software while I was watching that, I would just turn the highlights down just a little bit, so it's like things like that where it's not like major like audio sync issues or things like that were in version 1, but it's more so like I would just want to fine tune it, and you can fine tune it, but then at some point you just gotta let go, which is hard when it's something you've worked a year on,
right?
So
you said it was a kind of a surreal moment to have it on your TV in your living room, and you're not new to this. Like, this isn't your first film that you've made. You've done several. So what is it about this film that is different than the ones you've done before?
The amount of people that were involved. I've never before this project, because normally typically is like a company like Prime, or say a company like Go On, or whoever, whatever company or person, like a personal brand, they reach out and they're like, hey, I'm going on this hunt, and I need it filmed and edited, and we go and do that, and it's like for that one person, typically it's like we're just going to cut it together, add some music, color it, and it's like done, like we're just going to capture the story and post it. And there wasn't much pre-planning. It's more like, no, I'm going on the hunt, come film it, and we'll edit it, or you can edit it, or it really just involved me being there, pressing record, and that's most of what I've done since doing this, and this is my second year as a legal business doing this. So to have a second shooter, and to have pieces of talent and interview angles, and concepting and planning and having shot lists each day, and like going about that, I wasn't used to that. And I wasn't used to delivering to 4 or 5 different people, and I wasn't used to even really planning. Like there's not much planning when you just go and capture a hunt, but with this it was different because it was a film, and it was more in depth with what was involved. So I would say that was the biggest, like that we can do this, where in the past it's more, I don't want to say copy and paste, but it almost is with how you film it and how you just get it done.
Yeah. Where
with this, it wasn't, I couldn't just throw the clips in the timeline, cut it up, add some music and export it. It was like, no, it's a whole different beast. Like my timeline was so thick, I couldn't, it was just, there was so much involved with just like a 30-second piece, just from graphics and color and titles and lower thirds and audio and design and logos and it just piles on. And it gets to the point where you look at it and you're like, and it just has never really been like that, and I'm working on a couple other films now that are somewhat going to be like that, but still not as in depth as this. So it's cool to see that done.
Yeah, and it's interesting too when you say that. I don't see a lot of that happen. You don't see a lot of, companies work together, and when you see like TV shows, you've got the branding that comes up, you've got your titles that come up at the beginning and at the end, stuff like that. But it just seemed kind of like a unique situation that we had with 5 different brands collaborating all on one post. And then, like you said, the communication amongst all of those people. Like, I remember the first meeting we had with Troy, and I don't know if you remember his schedule, but it was like, that poor guy is in meetings all day long. Yeah. It seems like his whole, he had only a few small gaps where we could chat with him. And then same thing on the flip side, I'm spread thin here amongst our brands and our pro shop. And then you got Casey, creative director at Prime G5, and now I'm assuming he's doing the stuff for Montana Montana Rifle as well. I don't know, but everybody's really thin, you know, and then for this all to come together, I mean, I think it worked out really well.
And that is the biggest thing is, you know, we had our idea and like we have our plan as a team, like on this project, but then you have like your Casey's and your Troy's and Brian and all these people that play a specific role, right? Like Brian got us the bow, and then Casey is communicating on Prime side, and then Troy is working with us with SIG, and like everybody has their meetings, everybody has their life, and everybody has things they have to do. And finding that time to communicate and work towards that goal is very challenging. And back to what I said initially, like that was the hardest part. The filming was hard, more so physically and mentally, honestly. But the communication and like, because everybody plays such an important role, there wasn't really anybody that was like, oh, we don't need them. No, everybody had to be a part of it to get it done. You know, without Troy, we wouldn't have had optics for the hunt and been able to do that glassing segments and stuff like that. And without the bow, we couldn't have even hunted, you know. So everybody has these important roles, and I was super grateful. I still am. I'm super grateful and appreciative of the people that invested that time into that, because a lot of people could have just been like, cool project, wish you the best, but we don't have time, you know. And, you know, Troy had 30 minutes, you know, but he gave that 30 minutes to us. Yep. Like that could have been his lunch break. That could have been his family time. That could have been something else. But no, it was, you know, given to us. So that is what I'm grateful for, that allows projects like this to see the world.
Right. And it really was another challenge that we ran into is everything on the bow is prototype. You know, so I mean, not to say that it's not in its R&D phase, but it's all product that we couldn't quite release, you know, right away. And so it's like, you know, here's the bow, and you know the form hadn't launched yet. Vapor Trail, we have a new arrow rest that hadn't launched yet. Stoker Eyes, we've got a new, you know, topo pattern on it. And then, of course, dialed with the proof, you know. So we had the privilege of seeing some of the first versions of the proof when they came out, and that was pretty cool to kind of see how it was coming together. And so, meanwhile, all of these things are going on, right? Like SIG is sending us some of their newest optics and some of the latest stuff that they have, and you know, so all these companies were in the midst of working on getting these product launches going as well, right? So Taylor and Jordan and Scott and those guys over at Dial, they're just, you know, underwater trying to get their stuff done in time and get their product launched. And as soon as it launches, they're buried in orders and busy with that. And so, it's wild.
And everybody's so busy. Like I remember when we went to Dial to shoot that, like I communicated that date with Taylor, but you know, we both got busy and things got hectic, and we showed up and he's like, oh, you guys are doing this today. You know, and he so could have easily been like, I can't do this. Like, we have to fill orders, you know, but he's like, no, what do you need? How can we do it? And how can I help?
He showed up,
and,
for sure.
And that, it truly is more than just the film and the 20-minute piece. It's the people, you know, that were supportive in getting that done and giving us the time. And, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm grateful that SIG was able to run it up the chain quickly, because that was a little bit of a scary moment.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to like how each brand is different, right? Like Dialed and Vapor Trail and Prime and G5 and SIG, like they're all their own different company, and they all have their different types of workload, and it all involves different styles of revision and planning, and you know, it's all different. So I think the most important thing that I learned with this was just like being adaptive to each person specifically, because not everybody's the same with how they work on projects like this. So learning that from this project is not only great to get the project done, but also, like you had said, moving forward with more projects and like starting to do other things. It's good for me and us to know how certain people function and how they get stuff done, so you can accommodate to that. And that's something that I've had to learn just the last 2 years working with people, is everybody's different. So
yeah, I think it's probably elevated that learning curve a little bit, or not elevated it, but sped that learning curve up quite a bit as far as, large collaborations like this.
Yeah.
Was. And
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the future for the Mule Boys? Like, we've talked a little bit about it, and we don't have to, obviously we need to actually sit down and get down to the nitty gritty with pen and paper and start kind of discussing if we want, if we can make something happen again in the future. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking like April 17th, 18th, a turkey blind, us three, FX6 on tripod, Paul ripping stills, and you with the form in your hand. And it's not going to be a film, but hopefully there's a dead turkey.
Yeah.
And that's
Be
where
a short film.
that is where my head is at, I so quickly want to move on to the next thing, but I also just want to like soak in the form, the storm, and then enjoy warm weather and gobbling birds, and then really start focusing on the next piece.
Yeah. Right
but
on.
I'm so jacked for turkeys. Like, I don't. Yeah.
And shed hunting. You did some shed hunting this weekend.
Yeah.
You find it?
Huh?
You find some?
I did. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was crazy. Me and Alex, my buddy that helps me with production, we were going to do some film work and stuff this weekend, and then things took a different turn just with product and just planning. So we didn't end up doing that. But he was up at my place, and I was like, hey, have you ever found a shed? And he's like, he's found sheds like back where he's from, but he hasn't found like a Minnesota shed because he just became a Minnesota resident like this year. So he's like, I'd need to find a Minnesota shed. I'm like, okay. And then I called Griffin, my best friend, and I'm like, you want to go shed hunt? He's like, yeah. So we went to a place where typically we find at least one shed each year, and it butts up to a piece that I hunt. And I'd put cameras out and, feed to try and get a shed buck at my spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a buck that right now he's probably 3.5. Yeah, probably 3.5. Going to be 4.5 next year. And he's like a 120, 130 buck, but I think he's going to get bigger as he gets older, and he's got a nice frame. And he, the other day when I went into that spot, I saw him standing there with both sides still on. And then the next day he showed up because he'd showed up every night to feed, and he had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All the antlers were gone. So I'm like, okay, they got to be somewhat close. We searched all day, at least like most of the day, and I could not find him. And Alex found a shed, his first shed, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Griffin. So we all found a shed, but in different ways. Alex found a shed to a smaller buck that I had gotten pictures of, just one side. We couldn't find the other side. Griffin actually had the best find, but we couldn't get it because it was probably a 4 or 5 year old shed underneath this like frozen swamp ground.
Oh.
And all we could see were the tines. And we used my knife and used a arrow and stuff to try and get the shed out, but we just couldn't. So when it thaws out, we might go back and try and get it because it looks like a pretty big side.
Mm-hmm.
And then shed hunting. Have you ever shed hunted?
Mm-mm.
We got to get you out shed hunting, but it's kind of funny because how we did is we all three lined up and like walked in a line, and we each are supposed to like be looking in our line, not crossing lines and moving and stuff. And me and Griffin have shed hunted this place in the past, and we know typically where the sheds are each year, and we kind of like know what we're thinking as we're shed hunting this. And we get to this opening. It's like thick timber, and then there's like this little opening, and there's like a rub on a tree and stuff. And we just were sitting there talking. I'm like, there has to be a shed here. And he's like, yeah, there's got to be a shed here too. And I'm like, there it is. And there was a shed, nice freshie, just sitting there, like face down. And I'm like, got it. And he's like, and his foot was probably 10 feet from it.
Uh-huh.
And so that was fun. And
did he dive?
No. He knew I saw it first, so it was mine. So I picked it up, and it's a nice side. I was comparing trail camera pictures I had with that side, and I thought I found half the side to a different buck that I was looking at, and it's a completely different deer. I have no clue the deer I found, but I know that there's 2 sides of the buck that I'm trying to get out there still. So I might go back in a week or so and try and find it. But it was also really sunny, and when it's sunny, it's hard to find them because of the glare. So we probably walked over, I'd say at least 1 or 2, that we just didn't see from the vision, but it was fun.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, we got to get you out shed hunting.
Yeah.
Most of my shed hunting is done at Home Depot.
Easier to find.
Yeah.
More expensive.
Expensive, though. Yeah. Holy crap. Sheds are expensive, dude. Jeez. It's crazy. Anyways. Damon's like, I don't know if I can
I mean,
really
I live in a shed, so.
So yeah, just excited about the future, and I'm hoping that we can do some stuff again, and I look forward to turkey hunting coming up. That's going to be awesome, hunting together and getting out and doing some of that stuff. And then, I figured before we go, I just wanted to give a big shout out and a big thanks to the guys at G5 and Prime, the guys over at Dialed Archery. We got Kairos Artisan Blend Seasonings. We've got the guys over at Sig Sauer, guys and gals, all across. We had Argali, Go Hunt, John Barklow at Sitka Gear. Thank you for getting Paul supplied and getting me and Damon, supplemented with some things that we needed. And who else? Am I forgetting anybody?
If we did, we appreciate you.
Yeah. So if we forgot, thank you so much. I mean, from the bottom of my heart. And seriously, you guys, like, this wasn't just like just a job or like it was truly a passion piece, and it was a pleasure working with you guys. And again, I hope we can get something together and do some more of this in the future. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. That's great.
Let's warm up. We're in the warmth now, and let's go kill one.
Yeah.
Kill turkey.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, thank you everybody for hanging out and listening. Once again, you can find the video version of this episode on the Vapor Trail YouTube channel, so make sure you head over there, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. If you are listening, be sure to give us a rating and a review. Only 5 stars will do. And with that, we're going to pack up our bows and arrows, and we're hitting the range. Have a great day, everybody.
God bless.
Vapor Trail is now offering an exclusive discount to the Range Podcast listeners. Enter promo code TRP15, that's TRP15, at checkout for 15% off VTX bowstrings and Vapor Trail and Stokerized branded t-shirts, hats, and other gear.